Hello, my name's Ryan Foley. I'm a body language expert and I've also been a certified sign language interpreter for many years. I've interpreted in many different scenarios. And because of that, I'm often asked, well, tell me a bit more about how interpreters go from one language into the other. And most people are aware that interpreters don't interpret word for word necessarily, but rather interpret meaning for meaning. They have to convey the intent, the spirit of the message that they're interpreting. And that's important because you could imagine if you're really upset or you're really happy or you're trying to convey a strong emotion and the interpreter's just flattening it out, dumbing it down every time. It would be so frustrating. So interpreters are very careful to do that. And they do it very carefully as well. Because if someone is getting very upset, you don't want the interpreter to get so upset that they're acting the same way exactly, because that could make the client feel like perhaps they're being made fun of, right? So interpreters are careful. When somebody's upset, then the interpreter has to include that spirit, that meaning in the message that's being interpreted. So they'll show that agitation in the interpretation. If somebody's sad or crying, well, in-person interpreting, you can see what's going on. There's no need for the interpreter just to start crying the same as the client, but in the interpretation that they give, they're a little more somber in the delivery. And that's to convey that spirit, the intent, again, of the message. I remember years ago, I was called in to interpret for a government agency. They had an office that consisted of half of the people that were deaf and hard of hearing, and the other half spoke English. They could hear and could speak English. And I was replacing their former interpreter just for a period of time. The very first morning I go in there, one of the workers comes up to me and says, okay, I need you to interpret between me and the manager. And I said, okay. So I followed her out and the manager came to, got ready to interpret, and she started off by saying, I'm not going to put up with this shit anymore. Well, I faithfully interpreted what she said. I'm not going to put up with this shit anymore, to make sure the intent was there. But I also used the word that she used, and she could tell. She was reading my lips, and she said, did you actually say shit? And I said, yes. And this is what she did. She looked at me and goes, because she knew that I was faithfully interpreting the intent and the meaning of her message. And that's what you can expect from interpreters, going into English and taking your message and putting it into the other language. Their goal is to interpret meaning for meaning and convey that same spirit.